Welcome, everybody, to the November 8th edition of the Crash the Pond podcast. This is a big episode, folks, because it's the return. Fear the return of one Jake Rudolph after a lengthy absence, after a voyage through the wilderness of the eastern United States. He's back.
Finally, I have returned. There's a rock reference for people.
Yeah, I assume that had something to do with wrestling. So
Yeah,
there you go. Already making your presence felt here.
Off to a great start. And
yeah.
Felix, you know what else it is?
Daylight savings?
No, it's also the return of My Time Monday.
Oh God.
So
yes.
This is going to be a good episode.
Yeah, we're already rocking and rolling here, which is what you love to see as Jake just lifts up his glass and pours his Mai Tai into the glass right in front of the camera.
Mm-hmm.
Just great. Well, Jake, so I have a couple of things I want to throw at you here.
All right, hit me with it.
Before we talk about any hockey whatsoever.
Okay.
Which I'm sure people are just, they love that we're just choosing to go on a tangent. This is an intentional tangent.
Let the record show it was not me that took us on this tangent.
Does it count as a tangent if you decide to go on the tangent? Like, I feel like tangents are usually unintentional. I don't know.
It's up for debate. I don't know. Bonnie's somewhere listening. Let's let the English teacher tell us.
Well, I don't know. I
commentate.
I don't want to question her credentials, but she doesn't believe the word commentate is a word, despite its presence in the dictionary. So I don't know.
Love you, Bonnie.
I'll leave it at that. So first order of business, daylight savings. So spring forward, fall back. We were in the fall back. What are your thoughts on daylight savings?
It's awful. It's awful.
Yeah. Like, does anyone, who decided this? What is this about?
Isn't it like way back when, so that there's more like sunlight in the morning for farmers or something like that?
I have no clue.
I think that's what it was. Is that there was like more time? But I can tell you this: it's miserable to leave work and it's dark out, and it's the only, I guess, reason why it's somewhat nice is that I'm still like on East Coast time or whatever it is and can't really tell what time of day it is at all. So I'm waking up and the sun's out because I'm waking up at like 5 or 6 a.m. And so it's nice that the sun's up earlier. But once I get back to normal, it's going to be miserable. But this could be the last year of it. I think that they are actually like talking. There's a bill on Congress's seat or something like that they have to vote on to essentially basically listing out all the negative impacts health-wise on people. Yes. The fact that people are in darkness more after it's like unsafe for people to go on a walk sometimes. It leads to more seasonal depression. The fact that people aren't working out as much, people eat worse. There's a whole lot of negative impacts from daylight savings that way outweigh the positive impacts for like farmers, I guess. And so...
yeah, and like businesses, maybe it's more important for people to be happy and healthy than for, whatever.
Supposedly they might end up just like abolishing it across the entire nation.
Good. Well, sign me up for that because, I was outside today at like 2 p.m. and I was like, why does it feel like it's 5 already? Just the sunlight was, it was already felt dimming. Like it was already getting darker. Yeah. So not a fan.
Yeah.
Whatsoever. Second order of business. So the fact that you were on the East Coast means you were exposed to life as a sports fan on the East Coast. And I want to read you this tweet from Thomas Drance, who covers the Canucks at The Athletic today. He tweeted this out, and I want your take on this because it ties into your recent journey. So this is what he said. As a West Coast sports fan who spent 10 years on the East Coast in my 20s and 30s, the East Coast TV viewing experience is so superior. That's 3 so's to say that it's superior. And then he lists out a few different things, which I think you will have opinions on as well. Afternoon football, greater than 10 a.m. football. Watchable EPL starts, greater than 4:30 a.m. EPL starts. And then lastly, 10 p.m. late games, greater than everything being over by 10:30 p.m. So your thoughts on that?
All right. The one point that he has there is EPL times being better. Sure. He gets that. Like, that's fine. Like, whatever. It is what it is. 10 a.m. NFL starts are fun, though. Like, I have no issues. Like, the fact that on the West Coast, you wake up and there's football on until 9 or 10 p.m. Like, from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., there's football on. Like, it's great. Whereas on the East Coast, like, So what was it? I think it was one of the Sunday. No, one of the Sundays I was in Newport. We drove to Newport, Rhode Island, and we got there after a really long drive, and we go and are walking. It was the Chargers were playing the Patriots, so we got into a bar to kind of watch the end of the game, and it hit me. I'm like, it's almost 8 p.m. or 8 p.m. or yeah, it's almost 8 p.m. and the Sunday night game hasn't even started. Like, how is this a thing? Like, it's 8 p.m. and seeing as, I mean, here's a peel behind the curtain. With the fact that I'm old now and over 30, I don't really have an interest to like go out and party. So my wife and I were like done every night and back at the hotel by like 9 or 10 p.m. Ready to call it a night. And so I caught most Ducks game throughout the entire trip, but it was miserable. Like there were a couple of games where like if it was a boring game, I just went to bed after the second period. Like I think the first game of the
Arizona game.
Yeah, the Arizona game, definitely didn't stay awake to watch. There was also, I think it was the Vegas game was one of the entertaining ones. I was like, I'm actually going to stay up to watch this. I'm actually going to stay up to past midnight to watch this. But I'm like kudos to everyone like on the East Coast who are Ducks fans, especially those like I think there was I'm spacing on his name right now, and I am apologize greatly. But there's a podcast listener of ours who is in our Twitch chat regularly that is on the East Coast and said, "Yeah, tell me about it." And there's a couple of them. I think Jacob, I forget his Twitter handle. And then also on the trip, shout out to Even Wilderwing. I don't know if you follow him on Twitter or he follows you. Turns out he was at the Flyers game that I was at, and he came over and said, "What's up?"
Well, there you go.
So CTP Nation taking the world meeting up. There was a CTP meetup at the Flyers game.
See, now, Jake, I'm feeling bad that we have our podcasts Monday nights live at 11 p.m. Eastern time.
Well, I mean, we really can't do it earlier.
Well, yeah, and also I'm pretty sure over 90% of our listeners are on the West Coast of the U.S. But shout out to everybody on the East Coast if you do.
Chris Kindred
on Mondays.
Chris Kindred in our Twitch chat right now said, "I live in Atlantic Canada, and Ducks games generally start at 11 p.m. locally."
Oh, that's so.
Wait, so Atlantic Canada is that like
it's an hour more?
Is that like Halifax or like no? Okay,
so Nova Scotia.
I was close to there. I was all the way far up in Maine, like legitimately 2 hours from there.
Yeah, and yet you refused to cross the border. So.
I did. I don't think the border was open to be crossed, to be honest.
I don't know. Give it a try.
I think I heard today that it's like opening this week to be crossed in a car.
Just give it a try. What's the worst that can happen? You'll get hijacked by Mounties.
Yeah, pretty much in a rental car. Don't really want that to happen.
Okay, well, we are almost 10 minutes in. Barely have discussed.
This is going to be a long episode.
Well, I don't know. It could be. It might not be. Last week went 2 hours. We'll shoot to get under that this week. That was a bit of a mammoth episode. But look, folks, here's the main topic for today. The Ducks are on a 4-game winning streak, and so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, is this the Ducks turning the corner finally? Is this the team finding a new chapter in the Ducks rebuild? Talk about Troy Terry, Max Comtois, go over a bunch of different things. Before we do that, though, I know, Jake, you wanted to touch on this because while you were away, Ryan Getzlaf set the franchise record, passing Teemu Selanne in all-time point scoring. What was your reaction to that? And now that you've had a bunch of time to digest it.
So now that I've had time to digest it, first off, what a brilliant pass by him to find Terry, and then just an absolute amazing goal. Kind of a shame that John Allers didn't realize that Ryan Getzlaf had the pass and kind of screwed up the TV broadcast call of Ryan Getzlaf.
Hold on. Are you telling me that you're the first person I've heard mention this?
Really?
You're the first person I've heard mention this, and I noticed that as well.
Yeah.
But it's funny how no one at all pointed that out on Twitter.
How many times do you get the chance to call the record-breaking point for the franchise? And he'll probably get the 1,000 point right, and that's also a big deal. But it's just like he screwed up the call, and it wasn't until I think Brian Hayward mentioned it with Terry celebrating.
It was kind of awkward.
Yeah. And so a shame there, but I mean it's not a big deal. But just I hadn't really heard anyone mention, so I briefly kind of wanted to mention it. But it was a brilliant goal, brilliant pass, and I mean To be honest, I know you and CJI listened to the episode, and I know there was a bit of a discussion that it could be Teemu or it could be Getzlaf, but to me, quite honestly, there isn't a discussion. To me, it's honestly a simple answer. It's a quick answer. It's Ryan Getzlaf is the greatest duck of all time. It's a different conversation between the greatest player to ever wear the Ducks uniform, because I think that that's a more interesting and different conversation than this. But if you're simply talking about the greatest Duck of all time, I don't think there's a conversation that can really be had about it anymore, because I think by the end of it, when all is said and done, Ryan Getzlaf leads the team in points. He's going to be the first player to ever play or hit 1,000 points in a Duck sweater. He's played well over 1,000 games. He's been the longest tenured captain in franchise history. He was also the captain of the team, and while granted they didn't win a cup, but it was the most successful period in franchise history. If you look at playoff runs, division titles, longevity of success, there has never been that longevity of success in the Ducks history. Even when Scott Niedermayer was captain, sure, they won the cup, so the peak was there, but they also had some lows and they missed the playoffs a couple times. Ryan Getzlaf was there, and I think it was 4 or 5 straight division titles, and they still continue to make the playoffs. Like, that is the longest sustained period of success in franchise history. And so if it wasn't for Sidney Crosby, he would be considered one of the best centers in the game over that stretch. And basically, if he played anywhere else, he would be considered that. And Troy Terry even said that, and it's so true. And so to me, there really isn't a debate about it. It's Ryan Getzlaf. He's the greatest Duck of all time. I think Solani and Korea are definitely better players, and I think that is a different conversation. But Ryan Getzlaf is the greatest Duck of all time, and I think that's the end of the story to me. People can have their opinions on this, but that's my view of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk which Duck has had the best career as a Duck, I think it's pretty hard to make a case against Getzlaf, because Solani, very productive, maybe more dominant, earlier in his career. But yeah, I like I said on the last pod, if that's your argument, I don't really see any flaws in that.
Yeah.
I think you can make a decent case for Solani, but Getzlaf is very hard to topple.
Yeah. So. And I just, to me, there isn't necessary, like, the case for Solani is toppled by any sort of Getzlaf argument to me.
Sure.
And so I think that's the point.
That's fine. I'm a little on the fence, a little agnostic to it, but if I'm not hearing anything from you right now that's like, oh, that's so flawed, that's so wrong.
Yeah.
I think that, especially because what stains his record a little bit for Getzlaf in people's view is that what you're citing as a positive, the playoff runs, the deep playoff runs, they see those, the people that probably don't think Getzlaf is the greatest Duck of all time, they see those deep playoff runs as failures, as the Ducks, should have gone further.
You know what's
should have won the whole thing.
You know what's kind of nuts when talking about Ryan Getzlaf is people will bring up playoff failures. I don't think people realize that he was more productive in the playoffs than he was over the course of his career from a point per game status.
Oh, yeah.
120 points in 125 playoff games.
Yeah, it's totally overblown. The choker narrative with Getzlaf and Perry.
Like 120 points in 125 games. Like nearly a point per game over the course of his career in the playoffs. And real quick, Hockey Reference actually doesn't have his playoff stats right. I realized that because they have him over a point per game, but they're missing, I think, the first 2 playoff runs he had.
Interesting.
Yeah. By the way, also real quick, Darko Theory is asking, what is my hat tonight? Because it is a new one. It's from a little surf shop in Newport, Rhode Island. That's the type of souvenir gift that I like to get. Something I don't like the big name sweatshirts that just say where you went. For me, I like kind of this. No, but to each their own. Like my mom loves those sweatshirts and got her one. But like I like these kind of more niche type things from different cities.
Just say it. You're a hipster. You're a hipster.
I mean, is it a hipster to say I got a hat from a surf shop in a random city in New England?
No, it's not very hipster at all. Yeah, well, so on Getzlaf, yeah, I don't think there's much more to say there. I did want to circle back to a point you made though.
Okay.
And this has been what's the word I'm looking for? A thorn in my paw. So some kind of a pebble in my shoe, perhaps, the last week. So the Ducks have had a couple of games recently on ESPN Plus, and there's been a lot of pushback on Leah Hextall as a commentator. And I understand that people look, her tone is definitely different, a little more laid back. You're not getting like, it's not Doc Emrick.
I know where you're going with this.
It's probably the polar opposite of Doc Emrick.
And that's the issue.
But the amount of just vitriol that I've been seeing directed her way on Twitter, if you go look at the Ducks Instagram comments, people are just all over her. And like, I'm not sitting here saying that she's done this perfect job, that I think she's been, like 10 out of 10, best commentator ever. I think she's been fine. I think I've enjoyed her commentary, but it's just interesting to me because people never say anything about Hayward and Allers, for example. And again, and I just want to finish up the point with Hayward and Allers. I'm not saying that they're bad at their job or that they're awful. It's just, you never hear Ducks fans give them the level of criticism or just the level of scrutiny that I've been seeing, at least with Hextall. And I just think it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
and to your point, that the biggest moment of the season, right? Just, I mean, Allers flubbed it and no one said a word. And yet if Leah Hextall calls Jonathan Bernier the wrong name, it's like the end of the world. And I don't understand the disparity in scrutiny. That's
all. So I think, just to your point, I think it's a couple things. I think it's the fan syndrome, right?
Yeah.
John Allers, Brian Hayward, to some people, are their guys. And so they can do no wrong. They're never going to do anything wrong in those people's eyes. And they're able to gloss it over. And then anyone who comes in that isn't simply there to talk about the Ducks is never going to be good enough. And so with Leah Hextall being a neutral commentator, because that is what she is, working for ESPN Plus, same thing with Kevin Weeks, people are going to be more critical of that because of that. And so, yes, she has made some mistakes. Like, I think there was on Sunday's game, or no, on Friday's game, she was calling, it was like on a power play.
Yeah.
And now she was calling, I think, Sam Steele, Isaac Lundestrom a couple times on a power play. And
it happened like three. The funny thing is, it was Steele passing to Lundestrom.
And she just called both Lundestrom.
She just kept calling them Lundestrom.
Here's the one thing I'll give her on that is
weird camera angle.
Well, it's not only weird camera angle, but she's in building, and those jerseys from far away, I love those jerseys. The numbers are not easy to make out. And so 23 and 21 are somewhat close. And so I think that's part of it. I think another big part is also obviously the
well, Allers gets players wrong as well.
Yeah, and so I think that's part of it, and so it's flagging in people's minds because it's different, and her tone and the way she calls games is different, and so I think it's flagging in people's mind. I'm not defending that view because I think she's been perfectly fine. I think having someone who's different is good. And I think having someone that can call a game differently is good, because having the same sort of thing every single game is boring to me. Give me a different type of commentary. Make me learn or teach me things. And I've actually really, really enjoyed Kevin Weeks also. I think Kevin Weeks has been very good on the broadcasts.
Oh, yeah. I think that those two work perfectly together because, Weeks has all of the knowledge, but he's a different voice in that he's not just, your traditional hockey color commentator that's going to just use they got to get more pucks on net. They got to get in shooting lanes. Like, he gives you a little more, I would say, depth in his commentary. And it's just a little more fun. Like his comment about, they need to bring back the Mighty Ducks look. I mean, it's just stuff like that.
Kevin Weeks is very I've absolutely loved him on NHL Network when I've had NHL Network. And I mean, Far Carlisle in our Twitch chat brings up the point that there have been some awkward pauses and non-commentary on the ESPN broadcast. But that's on kind of both of them, and probably just a little bit of lack of chemistry / I don't think Kevin Weeks has really called games prior to this. And I don't know if Leah Hextall has done play-by-play that much prior to this either.
Yeah,
and I think it's a learning.
For their complete lack of experience working together in this setting, they've been pretty damn good. I mean, we do our watch-alongs, and it's really hard to, like, commentating on a game for a few hours is really hard.
Oh, yeah.
And let alone our watch-alongs where a few people are watching. I mean, you've got the whole you're on a national broadcast there. And I've also, just on a side note with ESPN Plus, I've really enjoyed the studio commentary as well.
Yeah,
with Tortorella, and they had Rick DiPietro on. But anyway, I just, again, this isn't to bash the Bally Sports broadcast at all. It's just I'm frustrated by seeing people being so critical of her every uttered word, and yet with Allers, specifically Allers, when he makes that kind of mistake, it just seems to go completely, unnoticed.
Yeah.
And that's
ESPN Plus, by the way,
unfortunate.
Absolutely great product. Being on the East Coast, I was able to watch every Ducks game seamlessly and easily. It was fantastic.
Same on the West Coast. So
yeah, there you
go. Well, I was on the West Coast.
There you go.
Thanks to the VPN. But okay. So anyway, I just wanted to go on that little bit of a rant because that's what we do on the show. We rant.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's get into the actual Ducks. So the Ducks are on a 4-game winning streak, and we're 13 games into the season. They're third in the Pacific Division. They're 3 points out of first. Now the Oilers have 3 games in hand, so it's a little bit of a mirage there.
Yeah.
But I guess just for you though, and I'll give you some numbers. During this streak, they're 14th in the NHL in Corsi for percentage, so they're above break even in shot attempt differential there, 51.67%, which is a really good, progression for this team, as a team that's always really struggled in that category to control play, to be even middle of the road. And this is something we talked about preseason, is a step forward. They're 18th in expected goals for percentage during this 4-game sample. So slightly below break even at 49.95. But even then, that's a big step forward for them as well. They've been really poor in that category. What's funny is that if you look at their expected goals for per 60 versus expected goals against, so goals for, they're 26th, and then expected goals against, they're 11th. So they're not really getting it done because they're generating a ton of offense at 5-on-5. They're actually limiting offense against.
A lot of it, the power play has been successful.
Well, so this was what I was leading into with the power play.
Let's hear it.
So during this streak, the power play has actually not been that good.
Okay.
In terms of how it's playing.
Yeah.
The results have been excellent.
It's flipped from 5-on-5, basically.
So if you look at the power play during the streak, they're 26th in expected goals for per 60. So they are not generating a ton of high-quality looks. They're 26th in unblocked shot attempts per 60. So they're bottom third, like way bottom third, in terms of just generating shots on net, quality shots on net per hour on the power play. And yet they're 10th in goals for per 60, and they're 8th in shooting percentage. So they're just finishing at a very high rate. And so it is a little bit of smoke and mirrors, the production there. But they're also, I mean, if you look at the goals that they're scoring on the power play, they're finding ways to, like, when they convert, those are high quality looks. They're getting the pucks, they're getting the puck into the slot off of set plays. You saw that with the Milano goal against Arizona on Friday. So they're finding ways to get to those looks. I don't think that these stats in a 4-game sample for the power play say, oh, it's just all smoke and mirrors, because on the season, the power play is much better than that when you look at the shot generation rates. I mean, they're 11th in expected goals for per 60 and 7th in unblocked shot attempts. So a lot of numbers, but all this to say that the Ducks have been decent during this stretch.
Yes.
And so what's your reaction to all of that?
So here's my reaction to all this. And I kind of put this briefly on Twitter, and this is kind of where I stand on it, is that overall, this is good to see. And this is what we've been clamoring for a while. And we didn't necessarily see them put up numbers like this last year at all through extended stretches of time. And so we would have wanted, even against poor teams, for this to happen. And we weren't seeing it last year. And so this year let's be real, a forward group that is injured and they're missing some key players, they've been able to really put together some solid and strong 5-on-5 play. And that's a very good sign. And so I think that there are a lot of really good positive steps. And I mean, I'm looking at Evolving Hockey right now, and against the Blues, they put up a 53% expected goals for percentage. Against the Coyotes, 57%. Against the Devils, not as great at 38, but Montreal, 47%, so still pretty close to break even. Vegas, 49%. Buffalo, 49.7%. Winnipeg 53%. So going back a decent amount of games, they've been close to break even in almost every single game, which is what we've been asking for, right? We've been asking for the process to improve, and the results might eventually follow. And that's even when they were on that 6-game losing streak, right? The process was looking better by the end of it, and it was just a situation of when would the results turn. And so this is the one thing that I will say, and I think that overall this is very, very positive for this Ducks team, and this is what we've been asking for. Having said that, I have seen some discussion over the last couple days, and both putting it out there, hoping that will happen, but also just wondering, is this the case? And people ask me if I think this is the case of, well, if the Ducks are doing this and putting up these good numbers, what happens when Zegras, Raquel, Silverberg are back? Could they potentially push for a playoff spot? And so here is what my view of all of that is that my concern right now is that while the process has been good in these games, if you look at the teams that the Ducks have played over this last little stretch, they're not exactly behemoths in terms of 5-on-5 play.
Vegas is actually bad at 5-on-5.
Vegas is the second worst team in the league at 5-on-5. And so if you look at there are only, I think, 3 teams that the Ducks have played so far this season that are top 10 in the league in expected goals for percentage at 5-on-5, which essentially just means these are the top 10 teams in the league at controlling play and generating chances and limiting chances against. And those are the Wild, the Flames, and the New Jersey Devils. And against each of those, they were not great. Against the Wild, the first game against them, the second game of the season, 23.5 expected goals for percentage. Against the Flames, 35.87 expected goals for percentage. Second game against the Wild, 32% expected goals for percentage. Against the Devils, 38 expected goals for percentage. So against the teams that are good at generating chances and limiting them against, the Ducks have struggled. And so I guess the good news for them is that there are only 3 teams in the Western Conference in the top 10. But how is this going to look when they start playing teams in that middle area, when they play Seattle, when they play LA, when they play San Jose, when they play these teams that are a little bit better than the teams they've been playing of late in terms of controlling play? And so that's going to be the real test for this team in terms of, is this for real or is this a blip? Because they've been playing better of late, no doubt. And I think that now this needs to be done against the better teams also, not just the teams that are right around them in a similar range at 5-on-5.
Well, I think to that point, though, you've got to factor in that they're going to get some reinforcements soon, you would imagine. So Zegras. Well,
but they had those players for the games against the Wild. They had those players for the game against the Flame. And so
But if you look more recently, I would say,
fair.
I mean, their results and their underlying numbers, you have to factor in that they are missing some of their better players.
Definitely.
So in theory, these numbers could be even better during the winning streak
potentially. But once again,
some of these lineups are just
the second game against the Wild though. That was midway between the start of the season and now. Numbers weren't great.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where sure, it could happen, but I think it is a situation where I need to see it to believe it type of deal. And so I think that that's the key aspect here. Having said all of that, there is also some discussion that I've seen about, well, what should the Ducks do about their pending UFAs then? And I think this is an important conversation to have. And I think that the Ducks really need to be smart about all of this. And I think first off, I don't think this little stretch is going to change any of their minds in terms of re-signing with the Ducks.
No, and it's the fact that they're also, like you've already laid out, they're beating some decent teams, but I mean, they beat Arizona 3-1 in kind of a snooze fest on Friday. So yeah, I mean, we can go over each player and we can talk about.
Well, I think just really quickly, broadly, broadly speaking, there was all the talk from the Ducks, and then Bob Murray even said it to Eric Stevens that they're in a rebuild now, right?
Yes.
And that's been the term. And one of the key aspects of a rebuild is that you need to stick to a plan, and you need to have a plan in place and stick to it. And this is really going to test that, because if Bob Murray is committed to the rebuild, then you don't just make a sudden change based upon a
No.
10-game sample size, 20-game sample size. You have your plan in place to get this team back into contention, and this is going to test if Bob Murray can walk the walk that he talked over summer, and if he is actually willing to stick to a plan, or if he's just going to fly by the seat of his pants and make changes willy-nilly to that plan. And no, but I'm genuinely like, I'm not necessarily saying this as a critique. I'm saying this as I'm an invested onlooker to see how it's going to go, because this is a pivotal part of this franchise history. And it's going to be important long term. And you're seeing, I think the good news right now is you're seeing the signs of progress for this Ducks franchise and how they're going to be able to have success moving forward. And I think part of that, though, is you need to move on from some of the older guys to supplement these guys that are starting to push the play, and add guys more in that age range. Add the guys in the Zegras' age range. Add the guys in the Terry's age range, and make that work. I mean, not saying that this is a guy that the Ducks should necessarily go after, but someone mentioned in my Twitter mentions today, I believe it was Jake Robles, mentioned Travis Dermott. If the Ducks should be looking at him, with the Leafs looking to move him, 24-year-old defenseman, like, sure, like maybe look at trying to pry him out of there for a Josh Manson if they're willing to do that, and if they're looking to get a veteran defenseman instead of Travis Dermott. So who knows what's going to happen there? But that's the type of move the Ducks should be looking to make, right?
Yes, I mean, the thing is, if we take the Ducks their word that they are committed to this rebuild, then this winning streak shouldn't really change anything.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of makes it easier, I think, for them to rebuild, because you can point to the fact that they're getting contributions from Troy Terry, Sam Steele is scoring goals, Isaac Lundestrom picking up a goal, against the New Jersey on Tuesday. So they're getting contributions from the younger players, and maybe even importantly for just the optics, they're doing it without a Rickard Rakell, and maybe that makes it easier to move on from him. And then if you're looking to flip some of these veterans on your roster, so I mean, like Manson, maybe Lindholm, right? Even Henrique, like those guys I think they're boosting their trade values right now. Like they're all chipping in a way that you would think, okay, an onlooker, an executive would think, hey, these are guys who can contribute to my roster. So I don't think that the Ducks are going to change. Personally, I just don't think they're going to deviate from the rebuild because of this 4-game winning streak.
No, I agree, but it's going to be interesting if this continues.
If it continues, sure. I mean, but then again, you have to ask yourself, if it continues and they are playing convincingly well, like everything is trending up,
mm-hmm.
the youngsters are playing better, at that point, like let's say the Ducks creep into over like past 15th in all the shot-based metrics, right? Like let's say the Ducks are just playing this really solid game and the team is, the power play continues to click. Should that start to change your mind a little bit, that maybe this is a team that's closer than they thought?
No, it shouldn't for some players.
Sure.
But it shouldn't change your opinion on your pending UFAs.
Well, that's the thing, is that even if, so with this hypothetical I just proposed, even if the process is so sound, they're really pushing, they're beating decent teams, they're pushing the good teams, you still don't want to have to re-sign your pending UFAs, because that's going to totally hamstring your long-term flexibility. It's going to make it harder to re-sign some of these RFAs down the line, like Zegras, Drysdale. It's going to make it harder to give them their contracts. So I think regardless of what happens, there's just no real case to start re-signing guys, to start trying to stock up the current roster. You got to stick to the plan. And it's pretty clear that the plan is a good one, because they are getting contributions from the younger players. The younger players are driving the bus right now. And so just feed those guys, help them out.
And this next group of prospects looks really promising. Jacob Perreault is starting to play well in the AHL. Sasha Pastujov is absolutely tearing up.
Just
destroying the CHL. You have Henry Thrun playing absolutely fantastic for Harvard. This next wave could be a really good one for the Ducks franchise. And so I think sticking to the plan is where it's at. And If you flip a Lindholm and maybe that in some ways negatively impacts your current roster to help you in the draft, you add a Shane Wright to this mix. This team could be in playoff situation next season. Like I genuinely feel that way.
Oh, bold take. Well, so, and I think with Lindholm, for example, yeah, it does hurt you in the short term, but the way that he's playing, I mean, all of his numbers are looking great this season. It's just going to be, you look at what defensemen are signing for these days, what you can get back in a trade, like the Seth Jones. I don't know if Seth Jones is a perfect comparable in terms of a trade.
It's a pretty good comparable.
But the Ducks could really make out like bandits in this situation. So don't deviate from the plan. I think everything is going according to plan. I mean, this is what you want to see. If you're Bob Murray, you want to see signs of progress, which are both going to help the future and also help you maybe move on from some of these veterans by boosting their trade value. So couple more topics I have for you.
Real quick, before we get into that, though, we should have a word from our sponsor. So you're a busy guy, so stop thinking about what to wear and just embrace the radically efficient Mack Weldon Daily Wear System. The Daily Wear System is a selection of clothes rooted in smart design made with performance fabrics and built to work together. From breathable t-shirts and polos to stylish button-ups and shorts, underwear, and beyond, Mack Weldon makes it easy for you to dress for work, leisure, and play. So Felix, Mack Weldon's been a long-term sponsor of this show, and they've been kind enough to send us a wide range of various different things. Tell me about some of your favorite items from Mack Weldon, because I have some, you have some, we've talked about it in depth, but as it's starting to get colder, I think I know where you're going to go with this, so I'm just going to tee you up for it. What's your favorite Mack Weldon product?
Well, so yeah, it is getting colder. The days are getting shorter. It's getting darker earlier. It's sweatpants season, and specifically the Ace sweatpant from Mack Weldon. So this has been by far my favorite product from them since they started supporting our show. Just the most comfortable material. It's got a nice fit to it. It's not like a baggy sweatpant that you're used to.
It's very slimming.
Yeah, you can wear this out and you don't look like you just rolled out of bed, which is usually the case when I'm wearing these. You can go on a walk with them. You can be pretty active in them as well. They don't get too hot. So I highly, highly recommend those. I've been a huge fan.
Yeah, they're fantastic. They're my go-to sweats. Wore them on the plane. Absolutely best thing that you could get. Also ended up wearing for One Direction. Other way, I wore I believe it was the Sunday lazy pant. I believe I'll need to look up the name of it, but really
the
great.
Lounge pant.
The lounge pant. There we go. The lounge pant. And that is nice, and that looks even nicer than the Radius or the Ace sweatpant. And so it can really feels nice, feels comfy, feels like a sweat, but looks really nice actually. Would not know that it was a sweatpant. And their underwear is obviously fantastic. Socks are great. Basically everything from Mack Weldon that I've ever gotten is top-notch, top quality. Absolutely great product. Cannot recommend it enough to all of you. So, I mean, like you said, the Ace sweatpant, go get it. Like, you're going to be comfy. You're going to look great in it, and you're going to have a good time. So,
yes.
You can buy some time with Mack Weldon's Daily Wear System for 20% off your first order. Visit mackweldon.com/CTP and enter promo code CTP. That's mackweldon.com/CTP. Promo code CTP for 20% off. Mack Weldon, radically efficient wardrobing.
Yep, go check them out, please. You will thank us later. So let's talk about Troy Terry.
Yes, please.
A regular subject on this show, but we just cannot not talk about him. He is making himself. I mean,
to quote Cody Rhodes promo, he has gone from undesirable to unfreaking deniable.
Exactly. That's the exact word I was looking for. He has been undeniable this season. 11-game point streak, dominant in all three zones, getting it done in every which way. Where do you start with this, Jake?
Troy Terry is very good. That is where I start with it. No, here's where I'm at with it. So a few things here. He has definitely improved this year. There's no doubt about it. He's improved in terms of his ability to generate offense. His defense is similar. One of the biggest things that we've seen from him is the finishing ability. And some of that is shooting percentage driven. And some of that might be, he talks about his confidence. I think when you're confident, maybe you start shooting the puck a bit better. That's where maybe you see the finishing talent come into play. And so that's where potentially the shooting percentage comes up. But he's shooting 32% right now. That's not necessarily going to continue. But having said that, I believe the on-ice shooting percentage, I'm trying to look it up right now for him, is relatively low. Yeah, only at 13.5% for on-ice shooting percentage. So even if his shooting percentage comes down, more likely than not, the guys on the ice with him will end up putting the puck in the net more. So it's not as if this point total is necessarily a mirage, but his goal scoring might be a bit. 8 goals is maybe a bit high. Maybe that should be a little bit lower, but the point totals are probably where it should be. And I mean, if you were to tell me he would have 14 points in 12 games, I would have been excited, but I would not have thought it would necessarily happen. But he's been this good for a couple years now and has been vastly underrated by a large portion of the fan base, vastly underrated by the coaching staff. And while, yes, he has improved, the biggest change in his game has been the fact that he's gotten more ice time and been put in a situation with better players. And instead of being necessarily being chastised at any sort of chance that you get, he's scored goals, which has forced the coaching staff's hand to play him more. And so in some ways, it's great, but it's also infuriating. Where if this, let's just say he was playing the same exact way, and the puck just wasn't going in for him in the fashion it is, he might end up being in Comtois' spot.
Yeah, we'll get to him.
We will, and be getting scratched throughout the course of the season. And so that's kind of what's frustrating me is that, well, yes, the point totals are obviously awesome, and it's great because essentially all the point totals is it's a reward in a way for how he's been playing and how he's been playing for multiple seasons now. And so I'm really happy for him because he deserves this, because he's been put through a lot by this coaching staff, by this franchise, and it's nice to see him finally reap the benefits of his play. Because while, yes, he's improved, it's not been this drastic improvement like some people want you to think.
Well, yeah, so that's the big question is what has changed? What's different about his game now than it was a year ago? And if you listen to his comments even, and you listen to the coaching staff's comments, you're led to believe that he's made this drastic change in his mental approach to the game. He said that...
Which is possible.
Yeah, which I mean is totally valid.
I just want to throw that out there. That not discounting that, but
not discounting that at all. But he actually had a pretty long comment about this, where he said that he used to beat himself up if he'd have a good day or a bad day, and just be on cloud 9 if he had a good day. It was all just kind of based on the outcome, right? Whereas now he kind of just shows up and just rides the wave, just has fun. Right, more about the process than the result, and I think that that's a really healthy mentality.
Yep.
And I'm happy to hear that he's done that. And Dallas Eakins has gone into great detail about how, Terry used to really kind of psych himself out, overthink things, but I think he's kind of been made to overthink things a little bit.
Yep.
I mean, like the way he was playing last year did not warrant him getting scratched, him getting benched. Like I feel like they kind of got in his head a little bit. Maybe he has just a tendency for that anyway, a preclusion for that.
Well, when you're put in a position to fail as compared to a position to succeed, you're going to second guess every single move that you make and second guess everything that you do. And when you're scratched after still playing well, like, I mean, think about what Sonny Milano has had to deal with this season. It's very similar. Sonny Milano came in, played one great game and got scratched and sent back down to the AHL. It's like, what's going on here? Like, this guy deserves to play. And it's a very similar thing what Terry dealt with last year. And so it's frustrating in one sense, the fact that it took production for him to be able to get this praise, but that's kind of how it works because production is the end result that everyone's looking for. But it's frustrating that the process that he had was not necessarily being rewarded in the way that it should have been, because I think one of the reasons why he's been producing is he's gotten more ice time. And so when you're playing well and you get more ice time, what do you know? Pucks go in the back of the net. Like it's not that shocking. And the one thing that I will say on him, it's funny. You and I have talked about this at length. He still should be played more. Like the fact that he's not on the penalty kill is shocking to me. And I mean, you saw it. It's funny. You saw it in the game on Sunday, he was actually out there for the 6-on-5 situation, and he broke up a zone entry by against and was able to get the puck and chip it out down to the other end. And that type of little play really makes a difference. You're stopping a zone entry and stopping the other team from being able to get into your zone. People want to harp on faceoffs in late game situations and how critical they are, but I'd rather have a guy out there that can strip the puck out on a zone entry and suppress that zone entry than a guy that can just win a faceoff.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so I think that if you dig into his numbers this season, I mean, yeah, there are some things that have changed that you can see, okay, his process has changed a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like if you compare his shot attempts per 60 this year, he's at 14.02, last year 10.97. So shooting the puck a little bit more. Mm-hmm. His individual expected goals per 60 has gone up from 0.64 to 1.19, which is a huge jump actually, which tells me that he's probably, he's getting more dangerous shots. The additional volume and the fact that they're slightly more dangerous, that's bringing that up. But like just shots on goal per 60, he's gone from 5.8 to 7.6. It's not these dramatic jumps in terms of the volume stats. And so I tend to agree with your position, which is just that he's getting to play more. And that's really kind of it. And I think that sure, there are things in his game that you can tell have gotten a little better, like his skill work. I mean, some of these goals he's scoring, I mean, just undressing defensemen, dancing around goalies. I mean, stuff that you saw from him last year, by the way, but you can tell that he's gotten even more comfortable.
It's stuff that you saw from him in the AHL also.
Exactly. So his skill level, he's found a way to bring that to the NHL. I think it's always been there, but he's just gotten better at doing it on a consistent basis.
That might be that confidence thing, is being able to do it more consistently.
Exactly. But even if you took that away and he was just the player he was last year, he would still be a very effective player.
Especially at his cap hit. Like, let's just say he was a 40-point player. And because he's on pace to be a 60, 70-point player this year. Yeah. Well, more than that with his current pace, but I would say he'll probably end up in that range if he kind of keeps this up. But it's very refreshing, as both you and I have been on the Troy Terry bandwagon for me years now, you also years now. And I believe it was even last year you had said he was the person going into the season that was ripe to have a breakout season out of the kids when everyone was looking at the Comtois, the Steels, those types of players. Yep. You had said that Troy Terry's most likely if you look at his underlying metrics. And I think it's nice to see in some ways our faith. I don't know if it's faith, our understanding of numbers maybe, or things like that in the process. Yeah. To see that rewarded in actual results. And I think that that's a bit rewarding on our end to see. And I think for us to have seen a player that's done everything right and get crapped on for it, to see him get rewarded for that.
Yeah, because I've like our old friend Anaheim Calling, Benny, replied to my tweet where I said, everyone was laughably wrong about Troy Terry and I'm here for it. Or I said something like that. And he replied, well, pump the brakes on the victory lap. Let's see when he's not shooting whatever he's shooting, 30% or whatever. And I think even if that dries up, which it inevitably will, he's not going to continue this shooting pace. I think there's still cause for celebration. He's still been very effective. He's been at worst the Ducks' third best player.
He currently, if you combine last season and this season to get a 60-game sample size, he's in the 88th percentile in terms of WAR.
Yeah.
And if we're just purely even discounting finishing, because his finishing has taken a huge step. He's now in the 82nd percentile.
Yeah.
Going from the 43rd. So in a 12-game sample, going from 43 to 82nd, that's huge. But so even if we're just purely looking at even strength offense and defense, he's currently at 68th percentile in generating even strength offense and 97th percentile in even strength defense. I don't know if we talk enough about how good Troy Terry is defensively. You and I talk about it a significant amount, and we still don't talk about it enough.
But that's not the rap he gets from the kind of the more traditional media. It's that he's this offensive guy that he's putting up points. The reason why he's always in a position to be able to pick up points is because he's just so good at keeping it out of his end.
He's never defending because he strips pucks.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and we were talking about it before we started recording, like the penalty differential. He's drawing a ton of penalties.
Yeah.
I think he's taken one penalty.
Wasn't there a game where he drew 4 penalties? I feel like that happened this season. I can't remember who it was against.
Yeah, I mean, he's just been a monster. And, I really am just hoping that if the points do stop rolling in at the rate that they are, which, is probably going to happen at some point, that the coaching staff doesn't just kind of turn on him.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like it's proven now that he's a top 6 player on this team. And yeah, he has 2 minor penalties this season in 12 games.
So actually, per Evolving Hockey, on ice shooting percentage right now for Troy Terry, 8.26% at 5-on-5. Like, it's not like obscenely like high from an on ice perspective.
It's his finishing that's kind of just going crazy.
But his finishing will come down. But in that same breath, Ryan Getzlaf's finishing will probably go up at 5-on-5. Well, and whoever they have as the third person on that line. I mean, Adam Henrique's there now. Adam Henrique is probably going to finish the puck more.
Exactly. So there's actually more room for improvement for like his assist total.
Correct.
So that may balance it all out. I mean, if I were to ask you right now, where Troy Terry is going to finish point wise this season, I mean, what's your handicap at?
Based upon his current point total, because he's already at 14 points, I would probably say 60 points.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy to think about.
It is crazy to think about coming into the season. Yeah, but he's almost at 20 points right now. Yeah, like he probably will hit the 20-point mark, potentially around the 20-game mark if he continue. Like, I don't think he's gonna stay a point per game for like keep up the streak. Like, it's just probably not gonna keep going. But if he hits 20 games with 20 points, I mean, to put up 40 points in the following 60 games, like, I think that's a reasonable assumption for him at that point in time. I think you can easily pencil him for 40 to 50 points though, at least. I think that's an easy assumption.
Yeah, I mean, the only other Ducks who have done at least a 10-game point streak, so Corey Perry, Ryan Getzlaf, Teemu Selanne, Andy McDonald, Paul Kariya. So he's in some pretty
nice company there.
You know what's funny? I was thinking about it. I didn't watch a ton of Andy McDonald play, but I feel like there are some similarities with Terry and McDonald's play styles.
Yeah, I'm curious if we were to go back, and doesn't JFresh have historical hockey cards? Yes. Let me take I'm curious how he profiled out from a defensive perspective, because from what I recall, I don't remember Andy McDonald being that great defensively. Yeah. But I also was pretty young when that happened, so I'm not quite sure how that actually would have come out. I don't know if I have that play. Oh, classic player card. Let's see very quickly if I can get this up as we're going.
So I have it up. So in 2000, so this is looking at the 2008 season. So this would have been the year after the Cup win. McDonald's even strength
was traded
offense,
that year though.
Yeah, well he was at 89th percentile defensively as a forward and 79th percentile in terms of penalty differential. So kind of similar. I don't know. It was just a thought.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, Troy Terry's been very good. We were right about him.
Yep. Taking our victory lap right now.
Yeah, this is a victory lap. Let's look at the other end of the spectrum. You already brought him up. Max Comtois. I mean, he is in the doghouse. There's just no other way to say it. He is firmly in the doghouse, getting fourth line duties, getting scratched. It's just been kind of ugly for him this season. So what's your takeaways? Is he just bad all of a sudden?
So I've got some numbers for you. So at 5-on-5 this year, purely looking at 5-on-5, his individual numbers are comparing it to last year. So this season, individually, he's shooting the puck 10.62 shot attempts per game and 0.71 individual expected goals per game. Last year, 12.19 individual shot attempts this is per 60, not per game, sorry, and 0.84 individual expected goals per 60. So a little bit better last year in terms of individual generation, but not a huge difference, right? We're talking over the course of 60 minutes of ice time, 0.13 individual expected goals and about 1 or 2 shot attempts, something in that range. And then at 5-on-5, it's not as if it's been that different. He's actually been better at 5-on-5 in terms of on-ice metrics. Expected goals for percentage at 47.65 last year, 49.7 this year. And then individual expected goals for per 60 last season, 2.36. Expected goals for on ice per 60, 2.36. Expected goals against per 60, 2.59. Expected goals for per 60 this year, 2.62. Expected goals against, 2.65. All of this to kind of essentially say on ice individually, there really isn't a big difference between this year and last year outside of if you look at goals for and per 60 and goals against per 60. Goals for, so actual pure goals for per 60, 2.68 last year. Goals against per 60, 2.34 last year. Whereas this year, 1.064, 4.19 against.
Yeah.
So there's your difference, folks. And I've had a lot of people kind of get into my mentions on this, including our good friend Tony. Love him, but I think people are in some ways confusing what I'm saying here.
Well, they're overreacting to a small sample.
Not only that, I think that's obviously part of it. But I think another big part of it is that I think some people are saying that he's not putting in the effort this year. He's not doing all these different types of things.
It's like they didn't watch him last year.
But that's my point, is that I feel like people forget how he was last year. And I think that is what's frustrating to me here, is that I don't think either you or I have defended how he's played this year, because I don't think either of us think he's been that good this year. He's been fine, but he's had his issues this year, and he needs to shoot the puck more this year, and he needs to increase his volume. There's a whole lot that he can improve on this season from last season. The issue here is that the argument of him being worse this season than last year is disingenuous, because it's, I think, misconstruing how he played last year based upon the final result of the goal total and the point total, and forgetting how he actually was playing at 5-on-5. And so the actual play was similar to this, which there are inherent issues with. But to say that he's worse this year is missing the point completely.
Oh yeah, I mean, again, it's like all of the kind of after the fact analysis of he's looking lazier. You know, like Dallas Higgins even saying we want him better outside of the slot. He works so hard in the slot, but he's got to be better everywhere. It's like, this has been true for a long time in Max Comtois. I mean, if you watch how he played last year, he's not this polished player at 5-on-5.
There's a lot of defensive flaws.
There's a lot of structural flaws in his game, even like his skating stride. I mean, this is stuff that's always been there with him. And last year, to his credit, he was playing, he was producing. He was getting to the front of the net. He was finishing off his chances. And he made it so that, he made himself undeniable to the coaching staff, like Troy Terry's doing now. The thing is that, and I think for the coaching staff, they just they were willing to overlook the rest of his game, because I'm sure they weren't blind to what was happening, but they were willing to overlook it because he was producing, and they weren't willing to sacrifice the production that he gave them night in and night out versus, maybe trying to teach him a lesson about his play style. And so fast forward to this season, the production has dried up completely. He's been caved in when he's been on the ice. And so there's just nothing there's nothing to support him anymore in the coaching staff's eyes, right? And now you're running into a risk where you're not, not only are you not playing him at times, he's getting benched late in games, he's getting scratched, but you're also you're running the risk of like diminishing returns, taking him completely out of the top six,
playing Nick Delorier in the top six over him, which is just laughable.
Right. So it's like, where is this really headed with Max Comtois? I mean, we've talked about this while you were gone, but he is waiver exempt. And at what point, do you see him going down to San Diego? It feels like all of that is in play right now.
I think I was the first person to text you about that about him potentially going down. That he is one of the few waiver exempt people on this roster. And with this being the case, what are the chances he ends up in San Diego? And here's my view of all this is,
I don't know if they'll do that.
I think
based on the recent games.
Oh, I could see them doing it. When everyone's healthy, I could see him doing it.
Well, when Raquel, Zegras, and Silverberg are back, then we'll talk, I guess.
Yeah. But so here's kind of where I'm at with it, though, is that if I put this on Twitter, I think last week at some point in time, but if I had a phone line to Dallas Eakins here, and I could give him just some advice, I think, for how to deal with Max Comtois, I would try to tell him patience is a virtue with a guy like this. Put him in positions to succeed. The results aren't there yet, but stop punishing him for it. Like, what benefit are you getting from playing Nick Delorier with Ryan Getzlaf and Troy Terry, or
that's
Nick
the problem.
Delorier with Trevor Zegras? Like the issue here is that the inherent issue is that putting Max Comtois with Bo Grew, and if it's Nick Delorier, if it's Sam Carrick, insert whoever it is, putting him with those players is not going to get the best out of him because his game is not suited to play with those players. He's not good defensively. He's not good in his own zone. He needs to have someone that can get him the puck in a spot where he can take advantage of essentially his biggest attribute, which is having a good shot and an accurate shot. And playing him with those guys is just not going to do it. So why wouldn't you put him back with Getzlaf? And especially with the way that Getzlaf and Terry have been going, like how many games did Comtois get with Terry on this point streak?
Oh, I mean, it's probably 2 or 3.
Yeah, and
4,
so
maybe. Yeah.
Do you not think he would have had a point by now if he would have been on that line for a longer period of time?
I mean, he just flat out needs someone to insulate him at 5-on-5.
Yeah,
he's not going to turn into this 5-on-5 beast playing on the fourth line. He's just not.
And that's also why I think that putting him with Getzlaf and Terry was such a good idea because it insulated him well in terms of a 5-on-5 defensive issue. He didn't have to deal with that.
Yeah, I just think that we're at this weird point now where it's kind of like the cat's out of the bag with Max Comtois. This is something that I've been saying, that we've both been saying for a couple of years now. Like especially last season, that he is just really flawed as a player. And I don't want to get on this train of Max Comtois is bad, but Max Comtois is a very particular type of player. He does one thing really, really well and showed a little progress last season in terms of generating offense for his team, but is just such a negative defensively that he kind of takes all of that value back off the table. And now that the points are gone, it's just kind of been laid all very bare. And I don't know, like, if you're the Ducks, what do you do with him moving forward? I think that you got to get him back on the right track. And I think the only way to do that is to play with guys who can cover him up a bit, get him with guys where he can finish a few chances, but longer term, like, is he really a guy that you feel is a core piece, because of all the flaws I talked about? Like, maybe he grows into it, right? Maybe that he snaps this funk and maybe he becomes this, solid contributor at 5-on-5. Personally, I don't know if I see it, just because this is something we've talked about. He makes a lot of mental errors on the ice. Like, there's a lot of just like misreads, horrible passes, turnovers, to just, transitioning the puck up ice. And I don't know how, that's going to get better, but I don't know how much better. And if you're the Ducks, maybe get him back on a line with Zegras or Getzlaf, get him producing, and then maybe try to sell high. I mean, is that too heartless?
No, I think it's a fine idea. No issues there, but I just...
He's not going to become a grinder. It's just not going to happen.
I'm just sick of this revisionist history, I think, about how he played last year.
Oh, yeah, because this is, like you said, everything shows that it was about the same. And, I mean, it's just so painful to watch.
It's not necessarily that I think I think he's been great this year, but I think there are better ways to optimize his play. But I think that the argument about him not playing well this year, or not being physical enough, not caring, it's like missing how he was last year. And it's like, it was
the same thing.
Yeah. It's letting the fact that the puck went in the back of the net gloss over how he played. And so I think, that, and Dalton Keys brings up a point. Has Comtois been on a Zegras line at any point this season? I don't believe so. And so that, that's another thing, is like,
he was in the preseason.
Yeah.
And Aikens said that he hated how they looked defensively because they were giving up too many goals. And it's like, welcome to the Comtois experience.
It's also preseason.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe don't buy into it too much.
Yeah, I mean, and so it's just painful to watch, because when he's on the fourth line, you can tell he's trying to do things differently. He's trying harder. He's landing he's finishing his checks, right? He gets in on the forecheck. The puck is already way out of the zone, and he just comes in for that little hit. And that's kind of it that he does differently when he's on the fourth line, or when he's out of that top six mix. And it's like, I just don't think that they're either he's taking away the right lessons, or they're giving him the right lessons right now. Because if the takeaway is just finish some more checks, be a little more physical, that's just not really going to be what turns it around for him.
Well,
like, he's just got to make better reads.
I mean, the lesson that they're trying to give him is to learn from good old Nick Delorier out there
and Bo Grew. Veteran NHLer
like,
Bo Grew.
We'll give credit where it's due. The fourth line, I think, was finally good last night for the first time.
Yeah, they were
this
great.
Season, maybe
they were their best line.
Yeah, but like Bo Grew has not been great this year. Like, he's been bad.
Hey, show some respect to his first NHL goal coming in an empty net.
Yeah, I mean, good for him, but yeah, he's not been great. So yeah.
Anyway, we'll see where it goes with Max Comtois.
Yeah. So I think overall, big picture, nothing's different for Comtois this year or last year.
It's kind of funny because it's the same. Like, Troy Terry and Max Comtois are two sides of the same coin.
Oh, Max Comtois is getting Troy Terry'd from last year.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like both of them are the same player pretty much, except one is getting all of the shooting luck and the other one is not getting any of it.
Yeah, as in they're the same exact player between the two seasons, pretty much.
Exactly, and that has completely tilted the scales in terms of their favorability.
It's almost like in a small sample size, looking at goals for and shooting percentage isn't the best way to evaluate players.
No, it's not.
Maybe.
I mean, it's working out right now. They're on a 4-game winning streak. And
yeah.
like we laid out in the beginning, it's definitely not all smoke and mirrors.
And it might continue because they're playing the Canucks tomorrow, I believe. The Canucks are not good.
No. So, yeah, I don't know.
Seattle will be – I'm actually excited to see them play Seattle because Seattle is a team that is good at 5-on-5.
Yeah.
And they do a good job of controlling play, and I think that will be an interesting matchup to see how they play, especially because I think by Seattle, Jakob Silfverberg should be back.
10 days.
10 days, and when was he put on COVID protocol? The 30th? It was either the 30th or the 31st.
Yeah, it's one of the two. I think it's the 30th, but I would have to triple check that. Regardless, hopefully back soon. 10 days is the earliest he can come back.
True. So we'll see. And then Silfverberg a little bit longer, and hopefully Zegras. I mean, did you see the whole thing that Zegras took warm-ups, I guess, yesterday? Yeah,
and he practiced today, so he must be close. I mean, I don't think he should have come back against Montreal after that hit.
Probably not. Well, he came back. He came back against Montreal and then played the next game against the Devils and got slew-footed.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that's really unfortunate how this is kind of going for him. And I think being as cautious as possible is the way to go right now.
Yep. Because
there's no sense in rushing him back. I mean, despite the team playing well and everything, it's just there's a longer game here with Trevor Zegras that you've got to respect. Yeah. By the way, didn't realize this. The Ducks play the Canucks twice this week.
Wow.
So
it's honestly wild. So I think the last podcast I was on was like the post opening week podcast.
Yeah.
I think it was just after like the first couple games. It's kind of wild to think that the Ducks aren't going to be playing the Jets at any point again this season.
I mean, I'm fine with that.
No, I agree. It's just like kind of crazy to think about that they've already played the Jets all of the times.
Get it out of the way.
Yeah. So excited. What was I going to say? We should actually, this is something we haven't talked about, and I don't know if this is on your list.
I know. Yeah, my list is done now.
Well,
I've got nothing left.
Well, the final thing that we should talk about is Jack Eichel is not an Anaheim Duck.
Well, that was true a week ago as well. 2 weeks ago.
Jack Eichel is not an Anaheim Duck and is not a Buffalo Sabre.
Yeah. Jack Eichel will not be an Anaheim
Jack
Duck.
Eichel is a Vegas Golden Knight. Yeah. You want my thoughts on it, or you want to go first?
I mean, let's hear what you have to say. You've been out. You've been on the shelf.
First thoughts, really happy for Jack Eichel. Not even from a competitive standpoint, just from the pure perspective of happy for him. He has had a situation where he has needed surgery for, probably about 6 months now. Maybe give or take a little bit there. But something in that range, and has been denied the ability to get the surgery that he wants for his long-term health, that he views as the best option after what it sounds like doing a vast amount of research, getting multiple opinions, and figuring out what is the best course of action for him and his health at his current age and long-term health, well past when he's done playing hockey. And I'm happy for the fact that he can now get the surgery he wants and finally be out of the pain that he's in. and get better. And so I think that first and foremost, that's the biggest takeaway here, is that he was done a huge disservice here. If I was Jack Eichel, I would be absolutely pissed and legitimately angry at the Buffalo Sabres for a long time for forcing me to sit in pain for 6 months and not allowing me to get the surgery I want to have it done in time for me to play in the Olympics. Like, if I'm him, I'm really mad about that, because who knows how many Olympics he's going to have. And so there's a lot here. And I think first and foremost, I'm just happy for Eichel and happy that overall in the NHL, we can now move past this and get Eichel back in the game soon. Hopefully the timetable is 3 months. And,
3 months.
And so hopefully get him back in the game, because when he's on his game, he's a top 5, top 10, maybe top 5 player in this league. And the game is better to have him in it than not have him in it. And so
yeah, absolutely.
That's first and foremost where I'm at. Kind of now backing off of that a little bit. Vegas absolutely stole him from Buffalo. Like, this is an awful deal for the Sabres. Like, this is the deal. Like, supposedly the Sabres were like waiting because they were Vegas was supposedly only offering one of Krebs or Tuck, and instead that phony Calgary deal that leaked was to potentially push them over the edge to give them both. And it's like, okay, so you got Peyton Krebs, who is, like, I was looking at hockey prospecting. He's like a 72% NHLer, but 10% star. So he's like a middle six center, basically.
He profiles as like a really good two-way
middle
2C.
Like, he's probably Adam Henrique.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of the commentary on him is about how great he is defensively and how responsible he is. And it's like, well, that's not really what I want back if I'm trading Jack Eichel.
And it's funny how over summer the conversation around him, like, put him in the same conversation as like Zegras and Drysdale. It's like, no, he's a different tier of prospect. He's not in the same conversation. So the fact that they got a prospect of that level, and Alex Tuck, who, I mean, granted, Tuck wants to go there supposedly, but
he's good.
He's a fine player, but it's not as if he's like a franchise altering player. And then they got a top, like, how did Vegas get a top 10 protected pick? Like,
that's the part of it that I just cannot understand.
Like, there's no way that Vegas is bad next year. Like, there's a potential that they could miss the playoffs this year based upon their injuries.
Yeah, they've been terrible this year.
And that's why good on Kelly McCrimmon for getting a top 10 protection on this pick. Like, it's so like beyond, like, insanely smart on his front. So, like, I think that the deal, from the sense of looking at it, is so incredibly favored towards Vegas. Like, sure, there is the risk that they're taking on him coming back and being the same player that he is. But even if he's like 75% of the player that he was, they still win this deal easily, like in a landslide to me. Because Peyton Krebs is like 50% maybe of Jack Eichel at his peak.
Oh, yeah.
And so if they're getting a 75% of Jack Eichel in his prime during their contending window, this is an easy win. So
yeah,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I think the most troubling part for me, reading the reports, is just that it sounds like Buffalo really wanted Peyton Krebs. Mm-hmm. Like that's who they were targeting.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, I think
their two scouts were focusing on him.
Krebs is a good prospect. There's nothing wrong with him. It's just, when you're getting put in a deal for, like, if I'm trading Jack Eichel, I want something back that's going to be a premium asset. And I don't think they got a premium asset.
I feel bad for Krebs.
Well, now there's going to be a ton of pressure on him.
Exactly. Like, he's always going to have to live up to he was the guy that was the centerpiece of the Eichel trade.
But I feel like a lot of Sabres fans probably soured on Eichel, though. He's
still the centerpiece of an Eichel, like a number 2 overall pick.
Well, the main question is just from a Ducks perspective.
Yeah, bringing it back in.
Did the Ducks miss out here?
So I think there's 3 different interesting points of conversation from the Ducks perspective here. So
3?
I think, yes,
wow.
3.
Specific.
First off, from a neutral perspective, as in neutral in the sense of not knowing what Kevin Adams was looking for and just purely our own perspective of prospects, the Ducks could have very easily beat that deal with a deal centered around Mason McTavish, a top 10 protected first round pick, and let's just go with Comtois or Terry.
But there is a critical piece of information for the Ducks, though, which I feel like we should mention right up front.
Yes, but real quick, I'll get there. But
Okay.
The second kind of point of view on this is from the perspective of, well, that's great, and that's our opinion on these prospects.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, the only opinion that matters is Kevin Adams' opinion and his scouts' opinion. And if they viewed Peyton Krebs in the same level as Zegras and Drysdale, which maybe
I don't think they did. I think Zegras and Drysdale were not available.
Yes, but if they viewed Peyton Krebs as in that range, though, not at the same level, but in that range, then maybe you and I disagree, and the Ducks could have put together a deal better than that. But if they had keyed in on Krebs as a guy that they wanted, then the Ducks couldn't necessarily meet that from the perspective of what the Sabres wanted, because the Sabres wanted the best prospect, and they got that from Vegas. And so I think that that's an aspect of it of, we can view it from what we think the deal would have been, but at the end of the day, what matters is how did Buffalo view these players, because they're the ones making the deal, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think Buffalo is hoping that this turns into like a Nick Suzuki trade situation, where Krebs just flourishes in Buffalo.
And the third perspective, which I think is the most realistic one here, is that the Ducks had fallen out of this deal because it seems as if that they weren't comfortable with the surgery. And I think that is the most important thing, because
no. So it's not that. I mean, this is my understanding. If you want to look it up,
I'm looking it up right now. I'm getting the article.
They were not willing to get him pre-surgery. I don't think the nature of the surgery was the issue.
Well, to me that read as it was the nature of the nature of the surgery.
Possibly. But I mean, just on its face, it seems like they wanted to see him play again before trading for him.
Yeah.
They wanted to see how he would bounce back, which is kind of weird, because if that's the case, then the Ducks must have been out of it for a while now.
Yeah, so here's the exact wording from Pierre LeBrun. The Anaheim Ducks had stayed in touch with the Sabres dating back to last summer, but fell out of it. I'm told because they weren't ready to risk dealing for him pre-surgery. Had Eichel got the surgery in Buffalo and fully recovered, I think the Ducks would have re-engaged. So to me, what that
they must have been out of it for a while.
Well, to me, what that reads as is the Ducks had seen the medicals that, what was it, Pat Brisson was sending out, and didn't feel comfortable taking on the risk of him getting that surgery here. And so they weren't necessarily comfortable with that surgery. They wanted Buffalo to take on the risk and then them trade for him after the fact. That's how that read to me. Maybe I'm reading into it too much, but to me, it basically seems like they weren't comfortable with the surgery, where if that's what the doctors were saying, that's kind of the end of discussion there, right? Like, there's no real leeway there if your doctors aren't going to allow it.
Well, pre-surgery could mean either one, though. That's the thing. So they would have been fine. So if Buffalo had said, yes, you can get the disc replacement, and then he plays, like, then that statement would still hold true.
True. So
I don't know.
I think it's not wanting to take on the risk of trading for an injured player.
I think your point is a good one, though, because that doesn't fully explain. That doesn't completely, like, there's still a little wiggle room there. Where
to me, it makes more sense that the Ducks doctors weren't okay with the disc replacement, and so they would have only wanted to deal with him after he got the surgery in Buffalo. That's to me at least what makes the most sense in this situation.
The hypothetical is that the Ducks. So if the Ducks doctors come back and say, we looked at the medicals, we think that the disc replacement makes sense. With that information, the Ducks front office could still possibly say no.
True.
We want to see how he looks first.
True.
But on the flip
which
side,
would be so short-sighted, because as Chris Kindred brings up in our Twitch chat, if the Ducks would have if let's just say Eichel gets that surgery in Buffalo, recovers fine to the point where the Ducks want to trade for him, they have to give up so much more to get him.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think I also have a hard time believing that if the Ducks doctors had come back and said, you know what, this is like a fine procedure, the disc replacement, he's going to heal great, or like, but at least our opinion is that this is a good thing to do, then it's just hard to believe that the Ducks would just kind of still hold on to that view of, no, we need to see him play. Like you would think that would embolden them to get in on the race. So, but I guess regardless of all the details of this, I don't think it's a big deal that the Ducks didn't.
No, here's the thing. I think getting Eichel would have put the rebuild into lightspeed. I think that it's a completely different conversation about this team moving forward. I think you have a bona fide number one center in the prime of his career where the Ducks could potentially become contending next year.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, it doesn't change the course of action necessarily for this franchise. And I still think that there is a positive course of action. It's not as if all is lost for this team. My view of it, though, is it's very rare to have the ability to get a number one center in the NHL in the prime of his career. And if you have the ability to do that and can make a deal work, you have to do it. And I think you and I are both of that viewpoint. And so I think that to me, that's, I think, the opportunity that has been lost here. But this is a very unique situation with the surgeries that's going on.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's enough, like, my own opinion is that I would have gone for it. I would have tried to make this happen.
Agreed.
More aggressively than it seems like the Ducks did. That being said, I recognize that opinion it's not like an objective thing. You can, there's a counter argument there, which I think is not terrible either, which is the risk factor with the injury, the fact that you are going to have to sell off a decent amount for the Ducks. Like, it's not as if, yes, they do have a loaded farm system, but they're still kind of at the beginning of this upswing, right? It's still very much in its infancy. And so you're going to have to tear out a decent chunk of that to get Eichel. And then you're really left with kind of this more bare bones framework that you're going to have to build up. It's going to be easier to build up because you'll have Jack Eichel, but nevertheless, you are going to take a big chunk out of that. You're probably like, if this deal were to be made this season, I feel like Buffalo would have really wanted Troy Terry, right? Like that's. I mean,
over summer they would have probably wanted Comtois.
Exactly,
which is funny.
So giving up, Terry.
I still would do that, and you and I are the biggest Terry fans, but you do that.
But you are giving up. I mean, yeah, it's tough, right? And so anyway, I think that where they are now, they're not going to get Jack Eichel. That ship has sailed. They have all of their pieces. They have everything is intact. They have all of their picks. Because it's no small thing for the Ducks to give up a first round pick. Now maybe they could have gotten it, protected like the Golden Knights did, but it's no small thing. So now they sit with everything that they had before, and they're still well positioned. This is going to take longer now.
They still have a lot of pending UFAs. They still have. I mean, Christian W brought it up on Twitter to me. Do you guys think Shattenkirk gets moved with the way that he's been producing, and how much could he get for the franchise? I mean, it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a second round pick. Feels like it's possible there. But yeah, so that's the thing. Like, they're still sitting pretty in my view.
Yeah.
And getting Eichel, I think, would have been the choice I would have made, but not doing it is a defensible position as well. So,
yeah, agreed. So
I mean, I try to have really, I try to really believe my takes and really go all in on them, but you've got to recognize sometimes that there is
and
something to be said for the other side as well.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely two sides to every coin here.
Yeah, I mean, I would have gone for it. I think that would have been the correct move, but not doing it is not this crazy thing either. So,
yep.
I mean, now though the Ducks are going to have to deal with Jack Eichel in their own division, which is going to be interesting.
Yeah, the more fun thing out of all this is that we get Eichel versus McDavid potentially in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Had you thought about that yet?
Yeah, I'd seen that get brought up. I mean, he's had to answer questions about that.
Oh, really? I haven't really watched a whole lot.
Being in McDavid's shadow, essentially. But yeah, I mean, personally, I kind of hate it, to be honest, because it seems like Vegas always does this. I mean,
from the perspective of him going to Vegas, I hate it because, I mean, here's the thing. I respect the hell out of Vegas for doing this because they are taking advantage of a market inefficiency, which is being risk. Which is just really putting a ton of value on prospects and first round picks. Not only that, but also just risk in general. A lot of general managers are very risk adverse in this league, and Vegas is willing to essentially do whatever to win and take on as much risk as they can give out a risky contract, willing to move guys out. I mean, and not being afraid to move guys out that have been good for them. I mean, Riley Smith could be traded at the deadline. They could sell off Riley Smith to make cap space, and that's insane when you think about what he's done for that franchise. But with Jack Eichel coming back, it's going to be great for them. And then, by the way, McDavid's a cheat code. Like, right? Like, yeah. That goal he scored is just it legitimately looked like he was like a ringer in beer league.
Yeah, I mean the celebration was the best part about it.
It was just so insane how it's like he was a wide receiver seeing a seam and just kind of cutting through it. And it was just like the perfect timing, complete misdirection. It was nuts.
Yeah, but bringing it back to Vegas though, I think it's an interesting philosophy of just, because a lot of people would have said, okay, you've got a brand new team, you've got an expansion franchise. You want to slow play it. You want to build up your farm system. You want to kind of home grow your team. And instead, they've just said, screw that. We're just going to sell off everything we have and just basically star-stud our lineup as much as we can and go from there. And I think that's just really, if nothing else, it's entertaining. I hate it, though, from the perspective of they're the only ones that are doing this. They're the only ones that are constantly getting, star players to come to them via trade. They're always the ones that win the sweepstakes, the fill-in-the-blank sweepstakes, the Pacioretty sweepstakes, the Eichel sweepstakes. They're always the team that get the Stone sweepstakes. They're always the team that gets them. And I would have rather seen Eichel go somewhere else just for the diversity.
Calgary would have been fun.
Calgary would have been fun.
For the same thing with the McDavid.
Not the sexiest destination, but yeah, that I hadn't thought about the McDavid perspective. Yeah. Anyway, so the saga is over. Our listeners don't have to hear us talking about Eichel anymore.
Yeah. Turns out me being confident about him becoming a Duck was completely unfounded.
Yeah,
I'll take the L.
You're in huge shambles after that.
Whatever. Sometimes you just gotta accept the L's.
Well, I think if you had known what we know now, which is that they didn't want him pre-surgery, that would have probably
would have changed things.
Yeah, like completely. Yeah, well, I don't know. Anything else that you've got? I mean, we're about an hour and a half in. Maybe time for some questions?
Yeah, I think it's time for some questions. So, for those of you in the Twitch chat, go ahead, throw some questions in. Basically, for those on YouTube, yes, we're on YouTube. Go to youtube.com/crashthepond. You can like and subscribe to our videos there. You can comment there. I will see them. I will respond to them. If there's a question, anything that you want my input on, feel free to throw a comment. I will see it. I will respond to it. Felix definitely won't, because Felix doesn't care about anyone.
Wow. Okay.
Just kidding.
That's how it is.
If I send him something, he'll probably respond. Or anyone listening on your favorite podcast services, we do a live stream of the show each and every time at twitch.tv/crashthepond, where you can come and watch us live and interact with us live. And if you have Amazon Prime, you get one free Twitch Prime gaming sub each and every month. You do have to hit that subscribe button after 30 days, but I do believe there's now a way to do it for multiple lengths. And I saw that our good friend Jess Science Cat extended hers to May. So thank you so much, Jess. You can be just like Kimpafu, who resubbed for 26 months, saying Silverberg gets a hat trick tomorrow, or Silverberg to Zegras hat trick tomorrow. Our good friend Bonnie resub for 37 months, and then Jess also gifted out 5 tier 1 subs. So thank you so much for all of that. So let's get some questions in here. So LewisX209, good friend of the show, patron, everything, has an off-the-wall question, but says, what is your favorite kind of bread?
Ooh, this is a trap question. Jake, why don't you go first?
Sourdough.
Sourdough, okay.
Sourdough.
I have time for sourdough.
Sourdough's good. Good on toast. Good in a sandwich. Good as a bread bowl. Pretty good overall. Good staple.
I'm gonna go with just the classic French baguette. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. That is the Rolls Royce of bread.
Fair enough.
So yeah, I'm gonna go with that.
Very milk toast take. Not a big deal.
What?
That might be your most just like normal take, like I've heard. Like,
oh my god,
that might be the most just like, okay, sure. Like, I was expecting like you to like go off on a tangent.
Wonder bread?
Yeah, when you said like the classic, I thought you were gonna say white bread, like Wonder Bread. That was what I was like bracing myself for.
Oh god, it's funny. This is the life cycle of me on the show. Is I can't get any love when I'm giving my controversial takes, and when I give something that's generally agreeable, I also get pushback. So I don't know what it is. Just can't win them all, I guess, or can't win any in this case. I will also say I don't. Does this count as bread? English muffins, or are they muffins? English muffins are very good. Just want to put that out.
They are. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Agreed. Let's see. Gibby Fan 36 says, "What is Vegas's cap problem due to the tone in their locker room? Who's gonna go?" So that's an interesting part of it. Also, is just Vegas saying, "Screw it, we'll deal with the cap later."
Yeah.
Like they'll figure it out. I mean, probably what's gonna happen is Riley Smith will get moved out.
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
at $5 million, he probably get, I mean, they probably honestly sell and like get assets back for Riley Smith from a contender.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I'm not totally sure what they're gonna do, but that makes sense.
Yeah. Let's see. Our good friend Bonnie said, "What is a hot take for the next 5 games?" So
Ooh.
let's look up really quickly. Ducks schedule. They play
Canucks twice and Kraken this week.
Canucks twice. Kraken, Capitals, Hurricanes. I'm gonna say
there's some winnable games in there.
I'm gonna say the Ducks go 2-2-1.
Well, let me ask you this: how far can they extend the streak? Does it end tomorrow, or I guess
It ends
tonight
in
by the time
Seattle.
Interesting.
Or is that in Seattle or at home? They're on the road, right?
Yeah, that's on the road. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm gonna say, oh man, I really don't want to agree with you, but I think you're right. I think it ends in Seattle. Hey, five game winning streak. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
My hot take for the next 5 games. I think that assuming that Zegras can come back soon, which I think he will, I think we're going to see him start to pile up some points. I mean, he hasn't really lit up the scoreboard yet, and it felt like he was coming on before he started running into the injury troubles. So, and you look at all his numbers this season, everything is kind of on the rise. So I think we're going to start seeing a little bit of a Trevor Zegras hot streak. There you go.
Yeah, I think that's a completely fair take right there from you.
Wow, look at that. I'm just racking those up today.
Yeah.
Just piling them up.
Hot take for the next 5 games.
Jacob Larson returns.
Max Comtois gets sent down.
Wow, that is a dark take, but doesn't seem like it's totally out of the realm of possibility either.
I mean, you wanted a hot take. I gave you a hot take.
Yeah, I feel like mine was kind of, again, milk toasty.
Chris Kindred asks, should the Ducks be interested in Brandstrom, Kravtsov, or Dylan Strome?
So I don't know. I mean, Dylan Strome could make sense.
Yeah, especially with the what's the supposed asking price of a mid-round pick potentially.
Yeah, I feel like with Strome, you're buying him at his lowest value, which I think he's better than how the Hawks are dealing with him for sure. He's 24, going to be 25 this season, so he's kind of still in that range that you'd like, if you're the Ducks with your timeline. So he makes the most sense of those. I mean, Kravtsov, I think that they, the Rangers screwed up his development, and I'm just not sure how much that's going to turn around. And then Brandstrom, I mean, the Ducks have a lot of different issues to fix on their blue line before they can get to him. So I think, Strome is the one that makes the most sense.
Yep, and Kravtsov, the issue there is I don't want to pay the asking price that the Rangers are supposedly asking for.
He's being cast as this premium asset.
Yeah,
it's just no, he's a failed first rounder at this point.
Dylan Strome is supposedly a really low asking price, so I would potentially try to cash in on that.
That just makes sense.
Yeah. Bonnie, throw in Twitch chat. I'm not sure what she means by this, but so maybe if she can clarify. But she says, "Who is the Ducks dragon now?"
The Ducks dragon.
I don't know. So Bonnie,
like their nemesis.
I don't know if that's nemesis or maybe the guy that just is fiery in the locker room. I don't know. Bonnie, let us know.
A dragon. Interpret that how you will.
Yeah, I don't know. Last one left says, should the Ducks go after Sam Girard?
So Sam Girard's pretty good, no question. The issue though is what will you have to give up?
Comtois for Girard?
I mean, it's surely going to be a higher ask.
Yeah, 100%. I didn't realize Girard's only 23. That's insane.
He's very young. His numbers are on the rise. He's a guy who could help this team. Now, if you can flip Hampus Lindholm somehow to Colorado, I mean, I think that would make a lot of sense for the Ducks. I don't know how much sense it makes for the Avs. I also don't know why the Avs would want to trade Samuel Girard. To be
They're
quite
not
honest
playing
with you.
him, and I think they need
Really?
to. And I think they need to clear space.
Well then, yeah. I mean, this could be a situation where the Ducks can swoop in and kind of fix another team's problems because the Ducks have cap space, so they can help them in that from that perspective as well. Take on some money. But yeah, that's a guy who fits their timeline and really kind of bolsters.
Spencer will probably chime in at some point, but yeah, they're up against the cap at 81.3 mil right now.
Yeah.
So basically, they are gonna need some relief at some point in time, especially long term, with the fact that Nathan McKinnon's deal comes up in a couple years. And so they got to figure out what they're going to do with goaltending. So I think they're looking at Sam Girard and the fact that he signed for $5 million for the next 6 years and potentially maybe looking to move him off of that. If that's the case, yeah, sign me up for Sam Girard. Like, he's insanely good. And yeah, I mean, maybe Hampus Lindholm's appealing to them because they get a rental.
Yeah, exactly. It's something that they can get out of.
Sam Girard for Hampus Lindholm is a perfect swap.
Well, also the benefit with Girard is that he's already locked up long term, which I think actually works for the Ducks because he's locked up in his prime as opposed to his anti-prime.
Yeah,
as the Ducks usually do. We have clarification, by the way, on the Dragon.
Yeah, who is the Dragon that they have to slay?
So I like the follow-up, though. Who's the nemesis for the new improved Baby Duck Army? So the Baby Ducks. I don't know. I don't think they really have a rival right now.
No.
I mean, maybe LA regional rival. Maybe that's. I mean, the Dragon that they have to slay is just themselves.
Yeah. Dallas Eakins.
Yeah, they have to just make better decisions more consistently. Like it's really just all about them right now. I don't think that they're at the point yet where, because if you look back at the Ducks in the mid 2010s, where it was, they've got to get past whether it be Chicago or Nashville, like they had an actual nemesis then. But I think for right now, the nemesis is just themselves.
Yeah, 100%. It's playing a good game at 5-on-5. That's their nemesis.
It's not playing Nick Deslauriers in the top 6 anymore.
Oh God, can that end, please? I haven't talked about that enough, but we
haven't talked about it at all.
I've said it like twice, but it's been miserable. Like, the play just dies in the offensive zone with him out there.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure what I know what I can tell you what the reasoning might be, which is that he is going to protect the younger players, which I mean hasn't really worked out well for Trevor Zegras, and then also
the slew foot happened with him on the ice.
Yeah, right. So it's like that's not really affecting anything, and then I guess he's more responsible defensively. Even if you look at Nick Deslauriers' underlying numbers, his even strength defense is actually pretty good. It's in the 76th percentile. The problem is he's in the first percentile offensively. So pretty much any value that he adds without the puck, defending, it just all goes away as soon as they get it back. And it makes sense. Like you watch him play, and it's like as soon as he gets the puck, like you said, the play just dies. It's just he can't keep up with, like when he's been with Zegras and Milano, you can just tell it sticks out like a sore thumb that he doesn't have the skill level to elevate that line. And I'm pretty sure he would even agree with this statement, by the way.
Yeah.
I think that he could help them in very niche situations defensively, but that's not getting full value from Zegras and Milano at that point.
Nope.
When you're putting
and
a guy
same
like him
thing
on
with
line.
Getzlaf and Terry.
Yeah. So don't really know what's going on there, but it is what it is.
Yep. Brandon Pineda asks, question, now that Eichel is gone, is there anyone to target for trades with the UFAs we have, or just stockpiling picks?
I don't have any name that pops up in my head.
Travis Dermott is an interesting player if Toronto is willing to move on from him. So yeah, Jake Robles mentioned
is he going to become your new Vince Dunn?
Maybe, but supposedly, I guess the Maple Leafs are looking for a guy that's on an expiring deal. They kind of want to get a rental for their blue line.
Here we go again. Manson or Raquel to Toronto for young player.
Well, Manson.
Every year we do this rigmarole.
Yeah, we do. We definitely do.
I mean, hey, maybe it'll happen this time.
Maybe it'll happen this time. No, but I mean, it's just a name. I mean, it's the Leafs. There's always going to be a name.
Andre Kasha, by the way, former Duck in Toronto, thriving.
Yeah.
There you go.
Good player. Happy to see it.
Yep.
Good for him. But it's always going to happen because always a Leafs player's name is going to show up in trade rumors. So obviously it's just easy to focus on it.
Because Toronto just bleeds rumors constantly. I mean, I haven't even been paying attention. Have they turned their season around yet?
Yes, they have. They've been playing well.
Is it still 5-alarm? Okay.
No, it is not 5-alarm. Their schedule is back on track. They're a good team.
Yeah, I mean, as we knew.
Yeah. Shocker.
Yeah. I don't know. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah. Lewis X209 asks, Derek Grant has a 3-game point streak. Does he extend it tomorrow?
Yeah, we're clearly haters because we haven't discussed that yet. I think that we just outed ourselves as Grant haters by not making that the lead of the show. Is Derek Grant's point streak? I mean, he's played better as of late, I guess. I mean, he's tipping in offensively.
Don't say we didn't say anything positive about Derek Grant.
Yeah, I mean, like you look at the 2 Carrick goals, and I mean it's the primary assist from Grant each time. So yeah, I mean he's doing some good things.
Yep.
By the way, I do want to shout out Bo Grew for his secondary assist on the Carrick goal yesterday. Nice little saucer pass to Grant. So don't say I never said anything nice about Bo Grew either.
There you go
for the peanut gallery.
All right, final question. Let's do this because this is actually kind of interesting.
Okay.
Bonnie asks, which veterans will be rentals and will come back afterwards versus traded and gone? Do you think any of the Ducks pending UFAs will be traded and come back?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I agree there.
I mean, I think Lindholm is going to test the market no matter what. I think I agree with you on that.
I think Raquel is going to do the same thing.
Yeah, it just feels like, these guys are homegrown players.
Manson might be the only one.
I could see it with,
Oh, Getzlaf.
Oh, okay, yeah, we're factoring him in.
I guess. Like someone said Getzlaf if it comes back.
Well, here's a question for Getzlaf. So, you know, he got the record. He's going to get to 1,000 points. He's going to surpass 1,000 points. What comes next for him in Anaheim? Because I asked CJ a little bit about this last show, but do you think that he's still a lock to finish his career as a Duck after all this? Or does it make it easier to leave now?
I think it makes it harder to leave.
Really? Because I feel like you could take the opposite view, which is, well, I got my records, I got I've got the feathers in my cap now that I couldn't have gotten if I had left, but now that he's got them, maybe you're not leaving any money on the table.
He still could have gotten those if he had left last year and come back though, and I think that. But
I'm saying over the summer. He chose to re-sign in Anaheim.
Fair.
Yes.
I think it is less likely that he is moved though now, because I think that now that he has all of these records, and once he hits 1,000 points, I think there's potentially going to be an outpouring. And you heard Teemu bring this up in the Q&A he had, and how he's like, that type of stuff matters to Getzlaf, and having a one-team career is something that matters. And it's very unique. You look at Yzerman, and I think that type of situation really matters to Getzlaf. And so,
okay, well, fair enough.
I think from, and I've said this for years, or a couple years now, where from a purely cold analytical perspective, you move him.
Yeah.
But
he's got the no move.
If he is willing to move, then you move him. Mm-hmm. But also from the fan perspective, I think there is something really cool to being a player that is a one-team player over the course of his career.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's some things that are definitely that you can't really quantify.
Correct.
Like that.
And I think that is part of it with him. And so I don't think he gets moved. I think he stays a Duck. And
I also think he's just, I mean, this doesn't totally matter because the Ducks aren't trying to make the playoffs, but he's playing really well.
He's had a couple great seasons. Like this year, obviously, I think he's been better than last year, but he was still good last year.
But just
contrary to what some people might tell you.
Oh yeah, well, focusing on this season though, like it just feels like there's an energy about him, game in and game out. I every game I've been finding something to gif about Getzlaf. Like he looks engaged.
He's just he's a good player. He's just, I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Famer.
Uh-oh.
On the back of his career.
Spicy take alert.
Is it spicy?
I mean, I think you can easily find people who will disagree with that.
Well, you
that
can
statement.
easily find people that will disagree with anything. I thought
Yeah.
weren't you the one last week who said it's more undeniable, or it's much easier to say he's a Hall of Famer than he's the greatest Duck.
Oh no, yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I agree with the statement. I'm
Okay.
just saying, like, there's people out there who definitely disagree with
Like-
that. I mean, there's also people who don't think the Earth is round. So I guess that's not
True.
really saying anything.
From the argument for him being in the Hockey Hall of Fame is it's not the NHL Hall of Fame, it's the Hockey Hall of Fame. And didn't he won a World he won a World Junior, I think. But
Yeah.
he has two Olympic gold medals. He has a Stanley Cup. He is a runner-up for the Hart Trophy. He's been on multiple second-team All-Stars. That the only reason why he was the second-team All-Star was because Sidney Crosby existed in the league. So he right? Like if Sidney Crosby didn't exist, he's a first-team All-Star, right?
Is that first team All? Are you talking about first team All Star or the Hart Trophy?
First-team All-Star.
Okay, but didn't he get edged out for the Hart as well?
Yeah, by Crosby also.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
So-
also, I no, that was my take last week, and I'm impressed that you remember that since you weren't on the show.
Exactly.
But-
I listen when I'm not on. When I'm on,
Yeah.
I don't listen.
Well, yeah, which is ironic, but so yeah, I remember saying that, and it's that I think it's easier to make the case for the Hall of Fame than Greatest Duck, because with Greatest Duck you have to contend with Timo, and I think he's got a strong case. But Hall of Fame, Hockey Hall of Fame specifically, yeah, like his resume is a great one.
Yeah.
And there's no way he's not going to be a Hall of Famer. And I brought up that model, for predicting, and he's like, roughly 70% to get in. So if he continues to pile up points, like he's a lock.
I mean, if he breaks 1,000 points, I like at the end of the day, it's hard because yes, you want to put together a model, but it's people that vote on this.
Well, yeah,
and,
but
and,
I'm
and,
saying,
and so I guarantee that they take into consideration the one team thing as being almost like a plus for him.
oh yeah, no, I think he's in. It might not be first ballot,
Yeah,
but he will get in at some point.
I think they might end up doing a similar thing to what they did with Solani in Korea.
Yeah,
and
with Perry.
I think they'll do Getzlaf and Perry together.
So you think Perry is also a lock?
I think Perry is as much of a lock as Getzlaf is.
Well, yeah, because he's also. I mean, because they've got almost an identical resume, except that Perry's got
Perry. Here's the argument. I think there's a stronger argument against Perry making the Hall of Fame than against Getzlaf, because I think Perry isn't going to end up with the goals and the points that you typically see for a Hall of Famer. But the thing for Perry is he has the hardware that Getzlaf doesn't.
Exactly.
He has a Hart Trophy. And the other thing is he's in isn't it like I think it's only him and Scott Niedermayer have won every trophy available.
Yeah.
Like he's won a World Junior, he's won a why am I spacing on it right now? He's won a Memorial Cup, he's won a World Championship, he's won a World Cup of Hockey, he's won a Stanley Cup, and he's won a gold medal.
Perks of being born in Canada.
Like it is the Hockey Hall of Fame. Yeah. And if there are only two players that have won every single one of those trophies,
yeah, there's no way he's not getting.
Like he gets in just based on that.
Yeah, and also, I mean, he's got a decent case, but yeah, I think Getzlaf's is probably stronger than Perry's.
I think they both go in together, though. I think it's a Solani and Korea situation,
and that will be a great day in the Rudolph household.
It will be. Happens. It will be.
Yeah. What were we even discussing?
I honestly
what
don't.
Was the question?
I don't even remember at this point in time. It was about guys getting traded and coming back, and that's how we got on the Getzlaf tangent again.
Wow. Okay.
That's good.
Yeah.
That was a really good tangent. I'm impressed with us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you brought it up actually, so it's to your credit.
I'm impressed. That was a good one.
Yeah, but I don't think. I mean, you've kind of talked to me into Getzlaf not ever leaving. It's just a narrative that won't go away, and it's just I can't unread the things I'm seeing. But I agree with you. There's a good case that he's going to stay, and then for the other guys, Lindholm, I think Manson, there's a decent case because there's just that whole he's a leader. Bob Murray loves him, so maybe they do flip him and bring him back. But that he'd be the only one. Like Lindholm and Raquel, I just don't see it.
Agreed.
So,
all right. I think that's probably going to do it for us tonight.
Dang, I like it. We got through it pretty quickly, just an hour 49. Nice and succinct for us there.
There we go.
All right, folks. Well, hey, thanks
I had a lot to say. It had been 2 weeks.
Well, last week we actually went longer.
I know.
So technically, you're actually
And
shortchanging
also,
us here.
I haven't given you any crap. You didn't burn this place down.
Yeah.
You kept it afloat.
Yeah.
You didn't completely ruin things. I did kind of idiot proof this for you though. If anyone was watching or anything, there wasn't necessarily any of the music or anything like that or anything on screen that you see now because I tried to make it as simple as possible for Felix here. You know, that's what a good podcast host does. Good podcast co-host.
I'm going to ignore that. And Bonnie's throwing in a late question, a buzzer-beating question here. Thank you, Bonnie, for this question so that I can get out of this topic thread.
Although I did have to save you with the YouTube upload. Did have to come in and do one.
And Brandon Pineda with another question. Wow, look at that. Questions just pouring in. Great timing, everybody. Will John Gibson be starting goalie for USA? I mean, so this goes into Bonnie's question that he was named one of the 3 stars of the week in the NHL.
I think he gets 1 start. I think it's between him and Hellebuck, though. The conversation that Jack Campbell is potentially going to be on Team USA is laughable to me.
That's a conversation?
Yes.
Well, hold on. So Gibson and Hellebuck are locks.
Thatcher Demko or Spencer Knight for the 3rd spot.
Has Spencer Knight been any good this year?
I don't know, but I could see them wanting to take a 3rd goalie that's a younger guy. There was some conversation of them wanting to do that with Gibson last Olympics, but that was when he was in the AHL, and there was some even conversation about that.
So Jack Campbell is 4th in GSAX this season.
So there's an argument to take him.
You're in shambles after your statement there. But yeah, I mean Gibson's 10th. Like Gibson's been good this year. Yeah. I think that we should probably.
I mean, Team USA goaltending is very strong.
Yeah,
like Jack Campbell would probably be a starter for Canada.
Hold on there. Hold on. I'm trying to think who would even start for Canada right now. Carter Hart has
Bennington.
Oh yeah, it would probably. Oh man, yeah, I don't want to think about that.
Because Fleury probably isn't it.
Well, how do you even judge Fleury though? I mean, he's playing for the worst, one of the worst teams in the NHL, behind no defense. I'm not trying to say he
probably goes as one of the goalies, and they figure it out when he gets there.
Yeah, I mean, this does kind of make me question goals saved above expected a little bit, though. The fact that Fleury looked like he was a Vezina.
Sorry, Lewis gets a much more fun question in under the wire here that we're ending with this one.
Okay.
Might as well ask this: does Troy Terry get on the USA roster?
Hey, this is something I texted you the other day.
So here's the question.
Keeps this up.
So here's the question about this, and this is actually an important piece of information for everyone out there that I heard right before the season started. I guess it was when they announced the first 3 players for every team. Every kind of team kind of did that. There's a long list that every team had to submit. So every USA Hockey Canada.
He has to be on it.
Every team, every organization had to submit a roster of 50 players to the IOC of players that they could select. And if he is not on that list, no matter how well he is playing, they cannot select him.
Okay.
So the real question is, was Troy Terry on their list of 50 players going into this season? And
do you think he was? Oh, I thought you were going to tell us if he was or wasn't.
No, I have no idea. I have not seen
okay.
And the lists were not released at all, so I have no clue.
We could probably find out.
I actually think Cam Fowler has a really good chance of making the USA roster.
Well, but he'd have to have been on that list.
Yeah, I
think there's a decent chance.
I think there's I mean, Cam Fowler played in the last Olympics.
Cam Fowler's been good this season.
That the NHLers were at. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Troy Terry, if he goes, would be the only returning member of the 2018 Olympic team.
Yeah. That legendary team.
Yeah. So,
well, I mean, I feel like he'd be on the long list just because of his past with USA Hockey.
It's possible, but I mean, there's a lot of players from USA Hockey.
There's a shit ton. Yeah.
So it's like you have to think like, is he on the set? Like prior to the season, was he like potentially the second best team of USA players?
Was he on the USA B team?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as if he had the Cisco profile of it. So that's the question here of like, did they have him in that range?
Yeah. because 50 sounds like a lot, but then you think about it, and it's really not.
It's two
for
teams.
every U.S. born player. Yeah. Ugh. I mean, I could see it either way because I think the USA hockey ties thing is a real thing,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, it's not like he was lighting the world on fire last season. So.
Yep, I could see
Yeah.
either way. I think if he is on the long list, I think he's making a very strong case for himself.
Oh, if he's on the long list, then yeah, I would put a little money on that of him making it.
Yeah.
But I'm also a terrible gambler, so take that for what it's worth.
There you go.
Okay, yeah. Well, so yeah, I mean, Jake, you were trying to bring me down with your commentary there. It's okay.
Hey, I was in some ways giving you credit though.
In some ways, yes.
You didn't burn the place down. You did a good enough job. You survived.
The credit that you gave me is essentially this: the expectations were so absurdly minimal that I somehow managed to meet them.
Correct.
I don't think I heard anything about exceeding them. I just met them. They're in the ground, and I managed to just stay in the ground.
Yeah.
Basically, which I'll take it.
Hey, I set you
I'll
up
take
for I was better than Dallas Aikens. I set you up for success, not failure.
Yeah, you didn't stick me on a line with Grant and Delorier, so I
No.
appreciate that.
No.
I appreciate that. I mean, to your credit, it was pretty easy.
Yeah.
It didn't feel that challenging.
I
thought,
gave you a very easy setup. Don't worry, much easier than I usually do.
What is Jake even complaining about? This isn't hard.
As prior to the show, you're like, I'm so happy I don't have to control it anymore. I can just focus.
Well, yeah, no. I mean, it is true that not having to worry about the technical stuff while talking makes it a lot easier to formulate sentences.
All right,
and
you can start landing this plane as I'm going to grab Salem.
All right. Well, everyone, if you've made it this far, 2 hours in, I applaud you. That must mean that you enjoy our show. At least I would think, because otherwise, how can you get through 2 hours of this? So if you've been enjoying the show, there's a few really easy ways for you to support us. So the number one way is to check out our Patreon. So that's going to be at patreon.com/crashthepond. And so over there's 3 different tiers of monthly support that you can pledge. So for $1 a month, a $1 a month monthly pledge, you get access to our patrons only Discord chat. And it's been awesome to see lately. We've had a lot of new faces popping up in there. So shout out to everyone who's been joining in. It's a lot of fun. It's basically a place where you get to connect with other diehard Ducks fans. So while games are going on, off days, you get to talk about breaking news, talk about what's going on around the NHL. It's a really fun environment. You know, no one's there to dunk on anyone. It's just we're all having a good time. And it doesn't necessarily have to be hockey related either. We have a general chat, which
there's a wrestling chat.
There is?
Yeah.
Oh, that's tragic. But hey, if you're a wrestling fan,
it's me, Mike DeFlorio, and Lewis just talking wrestling. It's a good time.
There you go.
Dynamites are always fun.
There you go. And then for $5 a month, you get access to 2 bonus episodes. And this month in particular, if you're a new sign up, it's a good month to join in because there's going to be 3 bonus episodes since we are making up for last month. We're going to blame Jake on that one, being out on an adventure.
Sure.
But anyway.
Sure, fine. I'm not going to expose you.
Yeah, don't expose me, please.
I'll take the blame.
In these bonus episodes, though, we go into great detail. Sometimes we'll do deep dives in the Ducks, talk about a specific topic that maybe we don't have time to get to on the regular show, or we'll do league-wide rankings, for example. So we'll do like our favorites for a particular award or who's our breakout players. So it's a lot of fun. It's more unfiltered, right? We if you enjoy the banter of the show, you definitely get a lot more of it as Jake has Salem in his arms and she's just looking him up. Love to see that. So that's for $5 a month, the bonus content there. Now for $15 a month, you get access to the chat, you get access to the bonus episodes, and you get access to 2 watch-alongs a month. Now these are a ton of fun because it's Jake and I doing a stream of a live Ducks game and giving you our commentary as the game is happening. You can join in on a YouTube chat that we set up. It's a private link for patrons only, so you can interact with us as it's happening. We're giving you our breakdowns as the game is going on, giving you some stats, giving you just a different feel from what you're going to get from the traditional broadcast. And because these tend to be about 3 hours long, there's some shooting the breeze. There's definitely some more casual conversation as well.
If it's on no, it won't be on a Monday, but if it's a Wednesday, it can be a Mai Tai Wednesday.
Yeah, there can be alcohol involved, believe it or not. Shocking, I know, from us, but that is the case. So you can find all of that at patreon.com/crashthepond. Now, you do not have to pledge a financial amount every month, as Jake is just showing us the Mai Tai.
It's delicious. Cutwater Mai Tai, not a sponsor. Please, everyone, try it.
Yeah. So you don't have to make a financial commitment to us every month to support us. That's totally understandable. You can leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. And if you do that, we will read it on the show. Those help us out a ton. They help the show grow. And so all you got to do is search Crash the Pond on Apple Podcasts. You can also find us on Spotify or really wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure to follow us there, subscribe on the respective platform. You can also find us on YouTube. So you can get the video format of the show. You can get the live stream with some of the charts that Jake puts up during the stream. You get to see Salem the Black Cat. You get to see Jake's Mai Tai. You get to see Jake's hat. You get to see it all. I mean, Jake is bringing all the entertainment value.
Got my
here.
Crash the Pond shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so, mustache. It's Movember.
There you go. So if you want all of that that entertainment value just teeming from Jake's side of this, you can find us there, youtube.com/crashthepond. Subscribe to us and make sure to turn on the notifications as well for when it goes up. Help us with the algorithm is basically what we want. Outside of that, you can find us on social media. Just search Crash the Pond on Facebook, at Crash the Pond on Twitter. You can find our website, crashthepond.com, crashthepond.com/shop. Actually, you can get the cool t-shirt Jake is wearing with our beautiful logo. Yeah, there you go. It's looking pretty good, looking pretty sleek. And Jake and I are on Twitter. Jake is on there at Reindeer Games 91, and I'm on there at Felix_Sicard. So, with all that being said, with all 2 hours worth of that being said,
yeah, we broke 2 hours.
We will bid all of you adieu, and we will talk to you next Monday. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye. Bye, everyone.